questions? Front row left, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you hired a head coach of the defense, as you called him, and Jim Knowles. The early returns look good. I'm sure you're happy. Can you just get into that a little bit, please?
This was a great start. I think that when we talked about this leading up to the game, that's the start we were looking for sure. And I think the combination of, the experience and then the scheme and everybody coming together. Watching the film, they played really hard. They played fast. They played decisive, similar to the way that we were talking about them leading up to the game. So, good first start, but that just means we can do it. Now we got to bring it every week.
He's got an interesting philosophy in the back seven where he believes the starters are the starters for a reason for the most part. Doesn't like to rotate a lot. Like Tommy played every play, I think. I think your starting corners played almost every play. Was that did you like that when you were meeting with him? Do you like that philosophy? Was that one of the reasons you wanted to bring him in?
Well, I think this game was unique in that we only played 49 plays on defense. So certainly you want to establish roles, but I think you're going to see more depth played moving forward.
Go third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you said yesterday on BTN about how Jackson, impacts everybody on the offense. How does he do that, and how do you guys have to account for that if he's not out there?
Well, he's just such an impact player. He can, as you saw last year, he can turn a 5-yard completion into, whatever. He's just so explosive. And, because of that, when you have a playmaker like that on the perimeter, it just has such an impact on the entire game schematically across the board. So, that's just the impact he makes because he's such a great player.
I know you're hoping to get him back this week, but do you have to balance in your mind of, okay, maybe we should rest him a couple weeks and make sure he's fully healthy before he comes back?
Yeah, I leave it up to the doctors and the medical professionals, but yeah, we will not bring him back if there's any risk of him getting hurt further for the future. So we'll make sure he's 100% before we put him back in the game. Yeah.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you talk about having to win every week here at Ohio State. You have this big game this week, a lot of hype around it. You come out against a non-Power 5 team. How do you keep the same intensity, same everything you need for a week like this after coming out Sunday?
Yeah, I think you guys have probably heard me use that term, competitive stamina, and I thought that that showed up in the game on Saturday night. The way that we played in the second half and certainly in the fourth quarter was tremendous because we knew we were going to be in those styles of games when you're playing against really good opponents. We were in some of those games last year. We did okay with other games. We didn't respond like that. We did on Saturday night, and that was a job well done, but that doesn't mean anything this week. We say it all the time after a Sunday practice. Once we walk through those doors and practice is over, we head up to victory meal. The game is done from the week before, no matter what happens, good, bad, or indifferent, because we have to move on because nothing we did last week matters. And it goes back to that term competitive stamina. Can we bring it every single week? And you've heard us say this and coaches say it all the time, but we create our standard. And what is our standard? So it's been about us, always has been about us, and we'll continue to use that message this week.
And you talked after the game, you mentioned a few times, CJ's not focused on stats, he wants to win. Is that something you've seen from quarterbacks as they get into their second, third year playing, starting, whatever it is, or is that a little bit unique for him?
Everybody's a little different, but I think what makes CJ unique is a lot of things, but he's a special young man. There's a lot to CJ. He's very deep. He's certainly an excellent player, but I think the impact that he's making on this program has been significant, not just on the field, and you could feel that on Saturday night.
Fourth row right, Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, Jim addressed the Lathan Ransom playing time after the game, saying they wanted to ride the hot hand. And this isn't necessarily about Josh, but is it fair to say there's a lower tolerance for mistakes defensively now, or is this a product of depth, or is it a combination?
No, I think it's a combination of all of the above. Yeah, and when you get in that first game and you don't have a lot of at-bats, you have 49 plays, I think more of those things come to the forefront, come to the surface. But no, we're going to need Josh. Josh is going to have to play for us, and he'll play a significant amount this year for sure.
Even if there's no message sent, is it fair to say that the team received a message from something like that?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them, but I'm very pleased with the way that the guys played on defense, and we'll have to continue to build on that. But the good news is we have really good depth, across the board, and certainly on defense and in the secondary. So, those guys are going to play, and when they get their opportunity to play, they got to make it count. And that's what being at competitive excellence is. We have these terms that are part of our culture, and one of them is at competitive excellence. When your number's called, do you make the play, yes or no? And so, that's what we're looking for.
Right next door, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, Ryan, when you get a guy nicked up like Jackson, I know you defer to the medical people, but how hard is it as a coach when a kid really wants to get back in there, whether it's during the next week's practice or during the game? Just how do you deal with that sort of emotionally?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, especially in big games like that, when someone's worked so hard for that moment in such a big game, and Jackson certainly enjoys being in big games. He thrives in it. But we first, like you said, go to the medical professionals and say, you know, can he play or not? If the answer is no, the answer is no. If the answer is yes, the answer is yes. If it's somewhere in between, like we got to kind of see how he does here, then it depends on kind of the maturity of the player. You know, and with Jackson, you know, we trust Jackson, so we wanted his feedback, and you know, we tried to see if he'd get in there and play, and then just said, you know, I'm just not going to be at my best here. I don't want to put the team at risk. And so, you know, we have a more experienced guy who's played. You can kind of trust him a little bit to give you some feedback if it's one of those things we're trying to figure out. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the doctors and the trainers.
You've done this a long time. What impact does a serious injury to a key guy or any guy have on the team? I know it's next man up, but like to the vibe of the team, what does that do?
You know, like you said, you have to kind of move on, and there's just different things that happen to you. And you know, we talk a lot about the events that are going to happen, the adversity that's coming our way. And the only thing that we can, control is our response. There's nothing we can do about what happened. Whether it's, you know, a moment in the game, the score of the game at halftime, or something that happens to your teammate like that. And so we try to focus on the response so that we get the best outcome that we want. That being said, it's not always easy, especially when you have a leader and someone who makes such an impact. So, you know, some hurt more than others. Some situations are harder than others. But I thought our team did respond, you know, and they some guys stepped up. Certainly saw what X did and some of the other guys, and that was good. So, you know, you just when you go into those first games, you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, if you told me in the national championship game, the first game, Trey Sermon's going to break his collarbone, or the first, you know, whatever few plays of the game, Jackson's going to be out of this one, I'd be like, oh my God. But those are the things that happen. You have to have plans in place for when those things occur.
Second row right, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
As you reevaluated, what did you see from some of those other receivers, and what's going to have to be better from them going forward?
Yeah, no, I thought there were some good plays, some ones we just missed on, and I think there was a couple protection things, not many, but early on there was a couple things, and then you know, just could have been cleaner early. And then I thought, you know, we were 9 of 10 there at the end and made some nice plays and kind of got more to a rhythm in the second half. So yeah, there's some things we certainly just technically that we got to clean up, and you know, a lot of those guys, that was their first time playing other than the Rose Bowl in that type of environment. So a lot of good things out there, but a lot to build on. You know, we still got a lot of improvement to make. Certainly know where we need to be.
And speaking of guys playing for the first time, I know Donovan Jackson had played before, but obviously a big start against what was going to be a pretty good defensive front. Your evaluation of what he showed physically in that first game?
Yeah, same thing. Had some really good plays. Had some plays he wants back. But for the first game against a very veteran defense and veteran front, solid job. Solid job. I think he graded out a champion, and especially the way that we played in the fourth quarter, he was a big part of that.
Third row left, Bill Landis.
Right. With CJ and the younger receivers, it seemed like a couple times maybe he was expecting them to be maybe a little shallower than they were, or the one that was behind Jackson, or Emeka, maybe he thought Emeka might sit there instead of keep going with his route. Just how long does it take, I guess, for a quarterback and newish receivers to kind of get on the same page when you're trying to determine the landing marks and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think CJ and Jackson certainly have a great chemistry there, and you know, CJ and all the receivers have been working hard, you know, to get on the same page, and they are. They've done a nice job. They've built great chemistry, and now you just have to put it on the field. So there were some plays that weren't executed well enough, and we got to get that fixed. But we've seen it in practice done the right way, and so we know that they can do it. It's just a matter of going and do it on the field.
It looked like Luke had a boot on his foot walking out of the stadium. Is there anything serious with him, or are you just managing something? What's up with that, man?
Yeah, you know, when you come out of those physical games like that, there's always bumps and bruises and things that we want to keep an eye on, but nothing long term there.
You had, I guess, the contingency plan up front. If you had to put a new center in, is it Matt? Is it Jacob? And then if it's Matt, who's the guard?
Right. Yeah, so when Matt went down, Enoch came in and actually gave us some good plays there. We had a counter play where he came around, did a nice job, and I think we picked up about 8 or 9 yards on that play. And so, yeah, it'd be one of the two. We'd either move Matt to center and then move Enoch over to guard, or you bring Jacob in. So those are our two options there.
Over to the right, Dom Berry, WBNS 10 TV.
Thank you. Coach, after the game, you said you thought that the way that you guys won that game and had to, get it done in the fourth quarter, that would pay dividends down the road. Learning to win that way, how important was that, and was that what you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Freeman talked about it after the game, that their game plan was to, shorten the game and run the ball and control the clock and limit the possessions on our offensive side of the ball. And so when teams want to do that against us, we have to be able to win in those games and respond. And that's something that's a little bit of a common theme for us. And so being able to run the football, stop the run, control the game in the second half, and play good defense is what we have to be able to do. And we did that. And in a physical game when you're not going to get as many plays. So I think looking back, we could have been more efficient, certainly in the first half on offense, because every play matters in those styles of games. But I thought the attitude was excellent. I thought the toughness was excellent. I thought the way that we played, we took care of the football. We tackled well. Those are the things you need to do in opening games. And certainly with the help of the crowd, we were able to kind of, push through in the fourth quarter. And I think it was a seven-minute drive there in the fourth quarter where typically in the past we'd be going a little faster and, maybe trying to score a little faster. But, we were controlling the game, and we felt like if we scored there, we could make it a 2-score game. And if we got one more stop, the game was probably over. And, again, that's not typically how maybe we've done things in the past here. But when you're playing good defensively and you're running the football, a win's a win.
Do you subscribe to the theory you make the most improvement from game 1 to game 2? And if so, where do you want to see the biggest improvement this week?
I think that's a little bit of coach speak, but I think that the reason why people talk about that is because when you are in the preseason, you make a lot of assumptions based on going against your defense or what guys are going to do. But then once you get on the field, you realize what's real. And then you have to be able to make those adjustments and figure out what that is, kind of wake some guys up. So we'll see. There's certainly a lot of things to improve on. The issues are always there, and we got to get those addressed. And that's the key, when whether it's week 2 or week 5 or week 7 or week 10, we have to be able to make those adjustments, figure out what those issues are, and get them addressed. And usually it's, like I say all the time, when there's issues, it's one of 3 things. It's either coaching, it's execution, or it's personnel, and so or scheme. And once you identify what those are, you got to get them fixed. And then the test is on Saturday.
Can you tell us what Jackson injured, or you?
No, I'd rather not. Yeah, get in, because once I start getting into that, then I have to kind of do that for everybody, and so we've kind of kept it just available and unavailable, and I try to do the best I can to at least give you an idea what's going on, but not give details of the guys.
Third row right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, when your defensive line plays the way it does in the first time out under a new defensive regime, are you even a little surprised at times by how good this defensive line looks this early in a new system change?
Oh, it was certainly great to see the play the way that they did. We've seen a lot of that in the preseason. We've seen a lot of that last spring. Guys in the backfield making plays. One of the things that I thought was great in the game was the first play was an explosive play. And I think the easy thing to do would have been like, oh, here we go again. And we've talked a lot, long and hard. I know the defensive side has, and I've talked to the defense that, with our style of defense, at any point we can get a negative play, get them off schedule, and either force a field goal or force a punt because of the different styles and the scheme that we run. And that's exactly what happened. I think they picked up 3 on first down, and then 2nd and 7, Mike gets in the backfield, creates a negative play, 3rd and long, force a field goal. We're off the field. We got a lot of energy, and we moved on. Nobody had their heads down. There was no panic. They believed in it. And I think that's Jim's mentality is, give me a yard and we'll defend it. So that was great. But yeah, to see the defensive line win the line of scrimmage was excellent in game 1.
I don't want to get too in the weeds, but I think Notre Dame was 8 on 3rd and more than 7. It seemed like last year there were too many times where 3rd and 1 guys couldn't get off the field. Is that one of those marks where you say, okay, we've made real defensive progress through the offseason, being able to get off the field when we need to?
We did in the first game, but that means nothing moving forward. Yeah, we certainly have not arrived, and we only played 49 plays, and that was great, but we got a lot of football to play. But for game 1, it was well executed, but now we got to do it again this week.
Fourth row left, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
Yeah, hey Ryan, just building off that, you talked about Jim Knowles' mentality.
Just the turnover battle Saturday with no turnovers for either side. Just how significant was that to you, and how important is that turnover battle between your team and your opponents?
Well, when you're playing against a team that wants to run the football, it's, usually they're going to take care of the football a little bit more. There's less risk there. They want to control the game. And there was a lot of field position play back and forth. There were some opportunities in there where maybe in the past I would have gone for it. Early on, I think it was a 4th and 3 around the 40-yard line. I think the year before we went for it against Oregon. Didn't do that. Decided to pooch punt, got it inside the 10. I think we had 4 punts inside the 15-yard line. So you're playing the field position game. When you're playing against a team that wants to run the ball, you have to be smart because all it takes is one turnover, and you could be up against it. So we tried to do the same thing, run the football, take care of the football, and win that style of game, which is a different style of game than maybe we've been in the past. And we knew that we had to be able to do that if we want to get to where we need to be.
Gotcha. And then offensively, talking about running the ball, just going into this week's game, next week's game against Toledo, just how do you plan on managing the running backs between Travion and Mayan there? I know they split carries for majority on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll move forward the same way. I thought they really complemented each other well. I thought they both really ran hard in the fourth quarter after looking at the film. I mean, I felt it when we were on the field, but after watching the film, boy, it was pretty impressive to watch those guys run that way. And they took care of the football, and that was a huge challenge for them. That's their number one job in this offense, is to take care of the football.
Third row right, welcoming a new member of the Ohio State beat, Cameron Teague, the Athletic.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned Mike Hall. I had a really good day against Notre Dame. Just what do you want to see from him when you looked on the film? Kind of what do you want to see from him going forward to kind of build on that game?
Well, I think anytime you come in an environment like that, you prove that you belong, and he certainly did. But now, what's the response to that? Is it, okay, I'm here, and now I start to feel good about myself, and I take a step back and gear down, or do I continue to build on that and now show that I can be consistent? Because if you want to be one of the better players in the league, which he certainly has the ability to do, he's got to bring it every week, and that's what the expectation is. So it's one thing to flash in the game. It's another thing to be consistent throughout, the entire fall.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1, The Fan.
Ryan, what was the degree of difficulty on that CJ throw to Mayan on the touchdown drive?
That's as good as I've seen. Yeah, I mean, the difficulty on that one was really hard. He's going to his left. He got flushed. First off, he did a great job getting out of the pocket. He spun out of the pocket. Mayan came back. It was a throw against the sideline, going to his left, and probably the only place he could possibly fit it. And then Mayan had to catch it clean, otherwise, because there was so little margin for error there. Big time play in a big spot. I think it was 3rd and 3, and got flushed, and he made another play like that on the sideline to Emeka. I think in the 3rd quarter, 2 really good movement throws.
I was thinking about that a couple times. The spinning out, we saw Justin maybe do that way more, and Dwayne had some of that. Is that, when you've talked about him using his legs, is that the stuff that's more important to you than him actually running, carrying downfield?
I mean, every play has a different set of circumstances. Certainly the situation in the game, down and distance. But extending is a big part of it because it allows receivers more time to get open downfield. But I think if you watch the move, he's moving different. And I think that's a tribute to him and Coach Mick. But when you look at the numbers on the GPS of how fast he's moving, and when you just watch his quickness and his overall strength, his body looks different. And that paid off on that drive for sure.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, as far as Jackson and him being evaluated, is there an idea on when he might be, how he might be able to practice this week or thing?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be kind of as the week goes on, we'll get a better feel for it. I think. Again, I can't really give much details on that, but we'll keep evaluating this week and see how it goes towards the end of the week.
And I asked about another guy from Rockwall on the other side of the ball. You guys are pretty selective with transfers, and I was wondering when you were looking at Tanner and talking with him back in January, what impressed you about him? What decided that he was a good fit?
Well, he came highly recommended from Jim and Jackson. They both knew him and made a few calls on him. And when we went to the 3 safety system, we knew that we needed to bring in more nickels and safeties. And watching him play last year, he's a veteran, experienced guy, but he fit our culture just by the way he immediately stepped in. He really embraced our culture. He has been really helpful to the guys. He's kind of like a coach on the field. And like you said, there's not a lot of guys that fit our culture that way. He and Chip both stepped in this year and did a nice job, just assimilating to the program, and because it's not easy to do here.
assess the impact he's had this offseason in the opener, having a guy with the level of experience he has in this defense, and what kind of impact they have made out of the gate?
Yeah, I mean, Jim, who has a few guys in the support staff, GAs, and guys that have been with him who know the system, helped early on, but certainly having Tanner there who knew the system with the secondary guys made it a lot better, because he's out there working extra with the guys, teaching them. Again, he's like a coach in the field, so that certainly shortened the time of learning the scheme.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, just from your experience both as a player and as a quarterback's coach, just how many weeks do you typically see it take for a quarterback to kind of get comfortable with new receivers?
It varies. Yeah, it varies. I wish I could kind of give you a number, but it varies. Yeah, and I thought there was some really good ones. I thought the throw and catch on the first touchdown, the timing was just excellent between he and Emeka. I thought there was some other good ones too between he and Marvin. The timing on the throw and the touchdown pass to he and Xavier were excellent. So there was good signs out there, and there's been a lot of work done in the preseason too. So we'll kind of keep working at it this week and see where we are on Saturday.
And then, how much more control have you given CJ at the line of scrimmage?
You try not to do too much. Just because someone can doesn't mean you should, because you want them to be clear and be thinking and just worry about executing the offense. And so we try to take as much off of his plate as possible. But he's very intelligent, so we can handle high levels of information, and does a really good job in protection and the run game, changing plays when we need to do that. But just because he can doesn't mean we should. And so I try to be very mindful of that.
You ever have to scale him back because he's probably asking for more and more?
Well, yeah. I mean, he and I talk about that a lot. And typically we'll put a lot in, and then every once in a while he'll say, "This is maybe a little bit too much here. Let me just kind of go play," and we kind of go back and forth on that. And by the time Saturday comes, we come to a pretty good idea of what the game plan is going to be and what he's comfortable with. But that's.
Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now and Sports Illustrated.
But it is good to have somebody who's older who can give you honest feedback in that area, though, too. Yeah.
Coach, I know Julian Fleming was listed as a game-time decision. How close was he to getting on the field?
Yeah, he went through warm-ups, and he was close, and it tore his heart out not to be in this game. Had an unbelievable offseason, did a really good job this preseason. Tweaked something leading up to the game, and so we're hoping to have him back on Saturday.
But as it relates to Arkansas State, what are the unique challenges they present to you?
Certainly a good coaching staff. Good players who, they've added some new pieces. And when you look at some of the guys who have joined their team, they come from very good programs, and so they have talent. Got off to a good start last week. So, and played some teams really tough last year. When you look at some of the teams that they played, they were in those games, even though maybe their record wasn't as good as they wanted to. And I know with that coaching staff, they're much improved this year. So, we got to do a really good job of, getting ready for a noon kickoff, because that's a lot different than it was last week, and then playing up to our standard.
I realize that the goal is to win every game, right? But are there specific things you're trying to accomplish this week, as you try to get into a good rhythm before you get into hard conference play?
Well, I felt like last week was like a conference game, so we've been working towards that the whole preseason. I mean, we were tackling, we were doing all of those stuff. Everything was in. Like, it wasn't like we had time to kind of move along with that. But I think this week it's more about addressing the things that we didn't do as well and continuing to build, trying to fix those things, build in other areas, and then I think we'll probably play more plays this week too. So have an opportunity to just evaluate everybody a little bit more.
Third row middle, Andy Andrews, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Yes, a lot's been talked about of how this defense sort of changes the picture for a quarterback after the snap. But when you're talking about the front and how they're moving different pieces around, as an offensive play caller, what's difficult about that to scheme against, and sort of what they can do with the jack position and how the front changes?
Well, identifying what's happening is probably the biggest challenge, is getting everybody on the same page. And when you're having a hard time communicating and identifying what's going on, it can create confusion, and I think that happens sometimes. And so I think at the end of the day, what happens with this style of defense and Jim's philosophy is they make you work every play, the quarterback and the offensive line.
Over here far right, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Given, Ryan, the hype of that game, the build-up, the months of this is going to be the greatest thing ever, and the stakes of the game, how big a hurdle was that you cleared?
Huge, yeah. It was big. but so is every game around here. If you don't believe it, try losing it, But that being said, there was a lot of buildup, like you said, leading up to the game for sure. A game being at 7:30 and just seeing everybody there, the skull session, the walk, pregame. I mean, all of it. So yeah, there's a lot, and so we tried to be mindful of that with the players, and we tried not to, get them up, too early in the day. It's kind of had to be steady with them and talk to them about the build up, and you have to be at your competitive excellence when the foot hits the ball, and that's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and you can't just. It's just not going to happen, especially when you go into the skull session, you're doing the walk, and you're, on the bus coming over here to the Woody for a walkthrough, and you see all the people. It's easy to get yourself, worked up for a game that doesn't kick off for another, 10 hours or so. So it was a long day, but to see the way we played in the fourth quarter and to leave that game with a win was a job well done. And but that's behind us, and now we got to move on.
And your post-game reaction, was that jubilation, joy, or relief?
Relief. Relief. Yeah, it's relief.
Far right deep, Andy King, WBNS 10 TV.
Coach, when you look at, you talk so much about the scars on this team.
Yeah.
And how much do you think those scars helped you get the job done last Saturday?
I don't think there's any question. Yeah, I don't think there's any question. But I think that's life. You experience things, you learn, and you don't always appreciate things until you've had some things taken away from you. And that's kind of what happened to this team last year. Happened to me, happened to a lot of the players on this team, the veteran guys, and you learn from it. And it can do one of three things. You either crumbles you get through it, or it makes you stronger, and you decide how that outcome is going to be. And the way that our guys went through this off season, I'm proud of that. And it's just a start, just one game, but it's a good start.
When you looked at that sideline before the game, when you think of representing Ohio State, maybe you have some people that are interested in Ohio State. What's it like to see Buckeye Nation show out like that?
Oh, it was huge, yeah. And I think that there's a huge part of Buckeye Nation that likes the way we played. Just gritty, tough, physical. 100th year anniversary in the shoe, a little bit of a throwback game maybe. We tried it. We had a couple plays for the fullback, didn't quite get to them, but they were ready. We did get pretty big down in the red zone once, so I know Coach Trussell was looking for the power play. We didn't get that one in there, but no, it was great. In the atmosphere there was certainly electric and a lot of fun. So again, we still got 7 more at home this year, but good start.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Ryan, you said, we all know that you pointed to Notre Dame. Everyone knew that was the first game. No offense to Arkansas State, but nobody was doing that for this one. You talked about competitive excellence and stamina. Right. How big a test is that this week? Because, look, this is not a marquee game.
It's something that we've talked about in the preseason a lot, though, because we knew we'd be in situations where you have to bring it every week. And so now we'll draw upon that. I mean, there's not going to be one of those surprises that we haven't addressed and said, man, it doesn't matter. Every single week you got to bring it. Otherwise, you don't have a chance to be a champion. So we're just going to draw upon that and figure out where we're at. But I'm hoping that the maturity and leadership can lead the way this week.
And what was maybe something overlooked Saturday that really pleased you? Obviously, the passing game took a while and didn't really click the way you wanted. But is there something that just stood out to you?
I thought the locker room at halftime was excellent. I thought the sideline was excellent. I thought the way there was a clip after we threw the touchdown pass to Xavier in the end zone where all 5 linemen and Travion were absolutely going crazy. They were just so excited to score that touchdown. And then just the excitement on the sideline afterwards. And the way that our guys in the fourth quarter just had a look in their eye. And the way that in the 4-minute coming back out there, and they're not going to get the ball back. We're just going to find a way. And then see to Travion, the way he ran a guy over and then runs hard. Like, they just weren't going to get denied. And that's something you can build on.
Halftime. What happened at halftime?
Just a lot of positivity in there. Just a lot of talking, a lot of guys communicating with each other. Just a lot of positive vibes, trying to figure out solving the problems. Where I've been in locker rooms before where there's just not a lot of talking going on. But But these guys, you know, there was energy in there. They were talking. They came out of the locker room with juice, and they just had a look in their eye that they weren't going to get denied. And again, that's what we were trying to build on this summer.
Time for two more. Front row right, Tim May, Letterman row.
Thank you, Jerry. More fluid is the way I would describe watching CJ roll out of some of those situations and get to the edges, et cetera. Did he work on that in the offseason? Did you press that, or did it just for a second-year starter, does it come a little bit more naturally?
I mean, we certainly worked on his athleticism and tried to get him stronger and faster with Coach Mick, and he did that. I mean, he really attacked the weight room this year, and you just feel it. But no, I mean, we've been doing some throwing on the run, and we've been doing some different things with him, and certainly worked on scramble drills. It's been a big emphasis for us, just with 7-on-7 and some of the things that we've done, and you know, with our defense doing a lot of drop 8, we had to, you know, with the 3-man rush, if they're going to drop 8, you know, there's only 3 guys in rush. So to identify that at times and then, you know, extend the play makes sense, and it's something that we have worked on some, but a lot of it has to do with him just feeling the game and seeing it.
Yeah, I got about 50 questions, but I'll just ask 2 more quick.
Okay.
Xavier Johnson, not only did he go in at that moment, but he was up for the moment because obviously on that touchdown, I think they blitzed both safeties for the first time all game. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, you're right.
What does that just tell you about his awareness? And obviously CJ has had that for a while now.
Yeah, I know.
What just piqued you about that?
Well, it was zero pressure, and in competitive excellence, game on the line, they, like you said, they brought both safeties in the A-gaps from depth, and they both recognized it. Xavier did a great job of setting up the safety. CJ drifted away from the pressure, you know, bought a little bit of depth. Sometimes you kind of have to throw that off your back foot, and you try to give a little air out there. Very well executed in that moment, but yeah, no, that was well done.
Does that get him more consideration down the road now that
Yes.
he was up to the moment? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, because you never know until you get in there,
Yeah.
and to see him play like that, he caught 2 balls in a row in a big moment. So absolutely.
The last thing, what did it mean to you? And you touched on it a minute ago to go to jumbo there down the goal line. Y'all had a 3rd and 2 in the first half, didn't get it done, got stuffed. What did it just do for you and this offense of getting something looks like fixed that y'all had trouble with last year?
Yeah, it was huge, and just again, I thought it was the attitude of just getting pads down, because at the end of the day, there's going to be extra guys in the box, right? We all know that. So at some point, you got to get your hands inside, you got to get your pad level low, and you got to beat your man, you got to block your man, and then there'll be an extra guy there that the running back has to run over. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So I thought we had that mentality down there, and so we got big and you know, tried to hammer it in there, and we did.
And final questions, second row right, Doug Lane Maurice, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, next year when you guys play Notre Dame, it won't be the opener. I think it's week 3 next year. Just now that you guys have gone through it, can you just reflect on when you play a top 5 team in your opener, how the prep is different, how you come in Sunday after a physical game like that? How different is it playing a team that good in week 1 when you don't have preseason games or anything like that?
Yeah, well, you're forced to be really good in preseason. We had 2 scrimmages where we did a lot of tackling, and you're in this balance of figuring out how do you get your team tough and game ready to play at a high level because it's such a huge game and can have such an impact on the rest of the season, but also keep your guys healthy. Just a lot of communication between Mick Marotti and I over and over and over again. I mean, we're in practice and he'll get the GPS numbers on somebody. He's out, get him out. He's already run too much. Or we look hard and think, go over and over and over again, how much hitting we should do, how many plays in practice we should have. And so between he and I, and then obviously talk to the coaches about their opinion on things, but we just try to figure that part of it out so that they can be at competitive excellence on that night. And I'll give the players credit. They believed because it was a hard camp. It was not easy. We went hard. We were physical. But I think we had them ready.
You got to play the schedule you're given. All things being equal, when you're playing a big-time non-conference matchup like that, prefer week 2 or 3 as opposed to the opener? Or
when are you asking me? Now? Great idea. Friday afternoon? Terrible idea.
And when you look at this schedule, and I'm trying to go a little picture off the big picture. Listen, the 12-team playoff is coming. You know, you guys, that world's coming. You look at Wisconsin and Penn State and Michigan State and Michigan, and all the games that you guys have in front of you.
Yeah.
Right now, as you just played a top 5 team, how hard can a team go? How many times a year where could you play a top 25 team every week in college football? Like the NFL, you're playing a great team every week. It's a parity league. Or when guys are in class and they're 19 years old, do you have to play some games where you're not playing a top 25 opponent because of mental and emotional and physical wear and tear in place? Like how tough can it be every week?
I think that's a great question. I don't think I have really the answer to that because we really haven't done that before. So I'd be kind of speculating, but it's something to think about for sure. I just haven't quite considered it, you know. But it's interesting, and I think that those are all the really good questions that are coming up as we head into this format. Yeah.
You feel, right now, you guys just won that game,
Yeah.
the toughest game. How much do you think this team feels it right now? Right, like how long is the physical, mental, to get back at it?
Yeah. Well, that's why we talk so much about competitive stamina, because no matter who you play, we have to play the same way, period. And so when you have that mindset going into a season, that's different than like you're saying, where it's like, okay, I got to get up for this game, but then over here I can take a deep breath. We cannot do that. You do that, that's how you get yourself set up. And I think that's why the theme this year has got to be competitive stamina. Bring it every single week, no matter who you're playing, whether it's the number 2 team in the country, number 1 team in the country, or somebody that's not ranked. You've got to be yourself. And so we've got to bring it 12 times in a regular season, regardless of who we're playing. And I think you have to really hammer that mindset before you head into the season. You can't just talk about it week 3. And we've been talking about it a lot. So we'll see where we're at.
You hinted though. What is your opinion of the 12-team proposed playoff? I mean,
I think it's
college football
exciting. I think it's really exciting, but I think there's a lot of work to be done to figure out a lot of things. But that's why we have the best athletic director in the country to figure those things out, not me.
Coach, thank you very much. Thank you, Coach. We'll open it up third row middle. Andy Anders, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Yes, just first, your evaluation of Lathan Ransom and how he played when he got in the game.
Andy, it didn't surprise me. Lathan's had a great fall camp. He practices well. He loves what he does. He prepares well. So what you saw on Saturday did not surprise me.
Coach Knowles always talks about his trigger. Can you elaborate more on that and how you've kind of coached that up?
I mean, he just is a football player that's very instinctive. I mean, you know, and so when he goes, he goes. And obviously he has a great impact when he makes plays on the ball and stuff like that.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Following up with Lathan, obviously Josh starts the game. There's the play that everyone sees, but how much was Lathan in the game plan ahead of time? How much did that have to do with how Notre Dame played? I mean, the two of them seemed to kind of step in for each other, so how much was that part of your plan beforehand?
Pat, you know, for Lathan and Proctor, you know, I'll go into the game plan more so. How did they prepare during the week? You know, Proctor's a phenomenal player, great young man, got a huge role on this football team. And I love him, I trust him. Lathan, I feel the same way about. And so it wasn't planned accordingly like that, but what I wanted to do was just calm Josh down, you know, and Lathan ended up playing, you know, quite a bit because he got in rhythm. But by no means, both of them, we need both of them to do what we need to do this year.
And when you have a guy like Josh specifically, misses almost all of last season, comes back, big game, how do you then, like you said, calm him down, but how do you then address that with him to get that message? Hey, this is still, you're still a big part of this. Right. You don't want to lose him mentally.
No. Josh was great on the sideline. He was phenomenal. You know, one of the things, you know, we talk about brotherhood, being selfless. He was great. Met with Josh like I do every guy that I have in the game or didn't play, and just kind of got his thoughts. But he was great. He was in here this morning watching film. He was in yesterday watching film. So he's preparing like a pro, and that's what we talk about. So he was great, and that's what we talk about, that it's going to take all of us in order to do what we need to do as a football team and as a defense.
Fifth row right, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
Okay, Perry, Last week we asked, someone asked Jim about how, if he'd take a moment to sort of absorb being a part of that game on Saturday night, and he said no, but now that game's over and you guys can tell the truth, do you feel like there's a moment on Saturday when you kind of were just in awe of being in that setting and with your family there? Just what did it mean to you to have that opportunity?
Well, first and foremost, we're at the Ohio State, so that's in itself means something. And for myself to be able to be here, have the opportunity to go out with this football team, with these coaches, with Coach Dave being our leader, and just having an opportunity for my family to share that moment, the magnitude of that type of game, and us come out victorious for Buckeye Nation, priceless.
Did it match up the expectation you had for the last 10 months of what that game would be like walking on the field of Ohio State?
You know, you always have visions and dreams of what it really is going to be, but I mean, you know, with all the star power, all the former players, and just how Buckeye Nation showed up and how loud it was and how our players kept even keeled and stayed poised amongst the whole game, you know, the ebbs and flows of the game. I mean, it was awesome. And one memory I'll always remember, but first and foremost is because we got win number 1 of the 2022 season.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Perry, you guys worked as a staff for 9-10 months for that game in preparation for the season. How do you think everything worked kind of mechanically in terms of you guys meshing, Jim upstairs, and that kind of that whole thing?
I mean, we're pros. I mean, everybody understands their role. Everybody's got one goal in mind, and it's for us to be the very best every day, you know. And if we put good days on top of good days and put our guys in the very best positions so they can maximize their God-given ability, we feel like Saturdays are going to be good for the Buckeyes. And so it was great. You know, the flow of the game was great. You know, our guys stayed locked in and poised. You know, obviously we hit adversity right off the back, first play, and our guys never flinched. And, you know, you always want to see that at some point in time. You don't know when that's going to come. And it happened right off the back, and our guys just stayed locked in, coaches included. And so very, very proud of that.
And one more about Josh. I mean, he came back from a terrible injury. First play, misses a tackle, and then after that series doesn't play again, I don't believe. You said he handled it well, but, you know, were you concerned, like, okay, we got to really make sure he's okay?
No, I mean, I approached it just like I would after any game, whether he played 50 snaps or 2 snaps. You know, I meet with each one of them individually, you know, because what I want to do is that was our first time under the lights together. You know, we spent a lot of time in the off-season, spring ball, and camp, but I wanted to make sure that I did everything I needed to do as their coach to prepare them on and off the field so they can be their very best for their teammates and for this football team. So, you know, he was fine. You know, Josh, like I said, talked to him Sunday. He was in there yesterday watching film. I met with him this morning and watched film. So he's ready to go, and that's what you love about him. He's resilient, and he's ready to put his best foot forward.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1 The Fan.
Perry, you're the expert. How many times was Ronnie Hickman ever out of position on Saturday?
He could play better, believe it or not. Okay. There's always room for improvement. The thing I love about Ronnie is he's really, really stepped up his game off the field as far as in preparation, his mentality, studying the game, understanding what to look for. And obviously you can tell because he's playing extremely fast. And I love the young man because he's put in a lot of time, effort to really, really hone in on the things that he knew he needed to do going into this season.
We've asked about all the other safeties, and maybe it's like Ronnie is taken for granted or something at this point. But yeah, I know that's not the case for you. There seems to be a high level of trust for this defensive staff and what Ronnie can do.
Absolutely. And he's earned that. And, you know, we've earned his trust, you know. And like I said, he goes to work every day, you know, keeps his head down. And the thing I love about the room is they all want to be coached. And they want real feedback. They don't want to hear how great they were. They want, Coach, what can I do to be better? And when you have something like that, that's special.
Second row right, Doug Lamerise, Cleveland.com.
Perry, can you maybe just take us through the prep, the game plan when you have a tight end like Michael Mayer, and what you guys wanted to do with him and how you guys think you executed it? Because, you know, he made some catches but didn't put up a ton of yards. What was the plan and the execution?
First, he's a great player. He's going to make a lot of money one day. But we just studied his habits. We studied his tendencies. We knew exactly where he was going to be. You know, I told the guys, hey, if he makes a catch or two, just keep hitting him, keep being aware of where he's at, because it's a 4-quarter game. And the guys embraced it. You know, the competitive excellence, the wanting to compete against the very best, and you know, they relished that. And so, you know, he made a couple of catches, but I thought overall we bottled him up and we did what we needed to do in order to come out with the victory.
And Jim Knowles up in the box, what's his communication like? Is he nice and calm during the game? Is he
Absolutely
fired up during the game?
Everybody on the sidelines got ice water in their veins. Like I said, you know, you build that trust in the off season, in the summer, and during camp. So when we get to when the lights are on, nobody flinches. Everybody's even keeled, and we're able to make adjustments. We're able to get on the board and know exactly what we need to do if something did break down, and there was no panic. And the cool thing is to look young men in their eye, and they see that, hey, these guys got it. And now we just got to go out there and continue to execute. So there was no issues there.
You're saying that when the players look at the coaches in game and say, these guys know what they're doing, listen to them, and this is going to work.
Absolutely.
How vital, does that always happen? How vital is that for players to be able to look at coaches and say, we know these coaches know what's up?
You know, I think it's about your preparation during the week. When they see it on film and they practice it, and then when it gets under the lights and they're able to see it live and in color, that means something to young men, because they're saying, you know what we worked on, what we practiced, what the coaches told us that was what was coming, it actually happened. And when those things continually happen, the confidence of a young man, of a defense, of a team skyrockets, because now they know exactly, hey, we just need to come to work and prepare the right way, and success is inevitable.
Right behind him, Cameron Teague, The Athletic.
Perry, you guys knew obviously coming into this game you had talent, you had depth at the safety position, but when you see it in a game like that, and on the first game of the year, you see Lathan coming for Josh and Ronnie everywhere, what's that like to see it for the first time and see that depth really come to fruition?
I was more proud because we were tough. We were physical. They felt us, you know, and that's something that we talked about in the offseason, all summer and all camp, that, you know, yeah, we're talented, but that only gets you so far. We need to be physical. We need to be tough, not only physically but mentally. We need to understand when adverse situations hit, you know, stay locked in and keep grinding. And so I'm more proud about that we really stepped up to the challenge of being able to respond when adverse situations hit, and also being able to be physical and tough and make sure that they felt us at the end of the game.
Well, you kind of off that, after that first play, after that first big play when Josh was that tackle, do you talk to the guys in the secondary about, did you have to talk to them about kind of coming back from adversity, or is that something that they were able to handle by themselves?
No, we handled it together. We as coaches are in it with them. It's not coaches and players, it's us. And they felt that. They saw that. And they really don't get it until they're actually under the lights with you, when it really matters. And all you've been telling them, it came to fruition because they actually got to see it. So being able to do that now, it just brings us that much closer.
Third row left, Bill Landis, The Athletic.
Wrong guy. It's okay.
We're ready to end this right now.
Early in the game, when Lathan stuck Mayer on that third down stop, and then stopped the guy who's 60 pounds heavier than him, kind of dead in his tracks, what kind of tone did that set for, maybe just your safeties in general, but I'm assuming that kind of permeates through the entire defense. Just what did you feel in that moment?
Absolutely. You know, first and foremost, it was a money down, so they had already had a tendency. That's who they wanted to get the ball to, you know. So we knew that going into the game, and so for Lathan to do that, it's just more than anything. We talk about being BIA, you know. So every day you wake up, every day we come in this building or outside this building, every time we take the field, there's a representation of all the great DBs that have come through here. So when we say best in America, that's a walk of life. That's who we are, and that's what we believe, and that's how we have to be each and every day. And so, like I said, it doesn't surprise me because of all the hard work, the preparation that Lathan and his teammates have put in each and every day that nobody sees, you know. And so we talk about it all the time, unseen hours, unrequired work. That's real. We live that. It's not something that we just say, but we actually live it every day.
How does a guy like Lathan like physically do that when he's just, you know, he's not the same stature as Michael Mayer? He's given up quite a bit there, but you know, they tried it and one guy went backwards and it wasn't Lathan. Like how does he do that?
Coach Mick, weight room, desire, heart, you know, and we only going to play one way. We will be physical. We will be tough. We talked about it, and we want to put it on display.
I don't know what you heard, but that's Bill Landis from Rivals. Third row middle, Jack Emerson, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Hey Barry, when you have a guy like Tanner who has so much experience in the system, you know, in a big game like that, when the crowd's wild, how important is it to have a guy like that to maybe calm guys down to maybe be an extra coach on the field in a game like that?
You know, I think it was more just, you know, the build up to the game. You're always concerned about that as a coach just because of the build up. I mean, it's a big time game, top five, you know, 2 top 5 teams going at it on primetime TV with all the star power around. I mean, you could get caught up in that. So Tanner's done an excellent job since he stepped foot on campus. You know, he's a very, very mature young man, very smart, and he's embraced our culture from day one. So to have him on the football field is awesome. He does a great job in practice. He does a great job in meetings.
Fourth row right, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Perry, when we look at the schedule, we see, oh, you guys might have to play a third linebacker against this team, a third linebacker against this team. You guys didn't do that at all. I was going to ask how proud you were of your guys, but we already know that answer. What's the conversations among the safeties and you guys afterwards that you guys held them to 2 yards of carry and you did it with 3 safeties instead of 3 linebackers?
You know, like Jim said from the very beginning when he got here, we're a safety-driven defense. So there's a premium and an expectation on each and every safety, just like each and every defensive player. We all have our roles, and we talk about being champions in our roles all the time. And so they knew what the challenge was when they got in the big personnel people, and you know, they were willing to step up to the challenge, which I didn't expect anything different from them.
To actually then see it, like how much better do you feel about the next time you'll see it, or the next big game that's going to be faced up?
I'm focused on the Red Wolves right now, but we'll be ready.
Second row left, we just have time for a couple more, folks. Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
But we've heard Knowles' stance on rotating versus just playing the starters. Was Saturday more of first big game, you just kind of went with who you trusted, or is that what we should expect going forward? You kind of ride the hot hand, whoever plays.
I coach with my heart, and I coach with feel. That's one of the things I love about being on the sideline, because I'm able to look guys in their eye, and I'm able to really, truly get a good feel for what's going on during the game, the body language. That's just how I operate. So I don't go into any game with any preconceived notions of this is what I want to do on this series, this guy's going to go in, because the ebbs and flows of the game are different. I mean, we played 28 plays in the first half. You know, we played 21 plays in the second half. Now, you know, we didn't expect that. We knew they were going to try to slow the game down, but to that degree, so that meant we were getting off the field at a really high rate. And so, you know, but I don't go into any game, this is what I want to do. It's just really the flow of the game.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Perry, just to follow up on Tanner, people have talked about him and his knowledge of the scheme being helpful, but as a player and manning that slot corner, what did you see from him Saturday? How would you just evaluate him as kind of like the role he has in that slot?
He did what was expected of him. You know, he didn't get a ton of action at him. You know, there was a couple of plays that he knows he's got to play better, whether it be a technique or a fundamental issue. But overall, he played well enough for us to do what we needed to do to win.
And right next door, we'll wrap it up with Tim May, Letterman Row.
Thank you. Did that match at all, that atmosphere match at all, that first game in Lumberjack Stadium?
Negative.
Okay. I was going to say, Nacogdoches says it's
No,
unreal.
come a long ways.
Yeah.
Come a long ways.
When did you know in spring or even preseason camp that Lathan Ransom, what was that moment? I would think there's got to be a practice or maybe a series of practices where you could count on him. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? That he was back. I mean, from a compound fractured leg or whatever he suffered in the Rose Bowl. When was that moment?
Well, obviously, Lathan didn't have any spring ball, and I knew that moment in the summer. So there were times when I would come into the indoor, and Lathan would be out here in the indoor by himself, working out, nobody around, doing drills, and I would just watch, from afar, and I was impressed, because he didn't have to do that. So that let me know right there he had a desire. He was intrinsically motivated. And then once we got to camp, each and every day he just worked. He's a great young man, just like the rest of his teammates are, and he just works, and very, very coachable. He puts in the time and effort. I think one of the biggest things for Lathan and his brothers in that room is they're loving learning about ball. They're loving it. And it's something cool to know that young men, each and every day they come into that meeting room, they're learning ball, and they're able to play fast. And so it doesn't surprise me what he did on Saturday, because I've been seeing it in camp. But more importantly, it started when he was able to finally run. He was able to finally jog. And those things pay off.
And from a safeties coach's perspective, looking at the Red Wolves, as you pointed out, what stands out about their offense? Obviously, they've juiced it up. They got a running back that used to be here a long time ago, was dismissed from here, but Seams is in there, and then Blackman started, a couple of seasons for Florida State and stuff. What do you see when you look at them?
They're a good football team. They really are. They're a tempo offense. They go as the quarterback goes. I mean, he's a big target back there. He stands tall in the pocket. They got really good skill around him, several transfers, and so we got our work cut out, but, that's why you play the game, and that's why you compete.
Thank you, man.
Great. Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Barry.
Berry, WBNS 10 TV.
You've had a couple days now to look back at it. Just overall, most things you were pleased with, things you feel you need to step it up with after one game.
All glory to God first and foremost, but just looking at the film, definitely think we did some great things on offense, moving the ball when we had to. Definitely seen a lot more man than we expected, so just got to clean some up things with man-on-man routes, me bodying them up when the defender's all up on them. Just little things like that, but I felt like we did well with pass protection. Pass protection was amazing the whole night. My O-line did a great job, and they even dropped 9, and we still got a third down conversion, so I'm proud of my guys who just keep fighting, not knowing all the looks that we were going to get going into week 1, so especially a tough team like Notre Dame, number 5 team in the country, so it's kind of tough knowing that they're going to do some different things, and I felt like we handled it well all week at practice, so I'm happy with the victory.
How about the grit that you guys showed, especially in the second half when you had to go out and win that game? And there was some old school football out there running the ball with Mayan and Travion. Just talk about the job that they did and knowing that you guys have that in the well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great feeling. I definitely think that that's something that we've been pushing since the offseason. Not just running the ball for 2 to 3, but trying to get 4, 5, 6 every play. And I definitely think that we did that. I know mine averaged 6 yards a carry. I know Trey probably averaged somewhere around there too. So even when stuff wasn't there, like they're running through people, which definitely think you need. But I think that we built that in the offseason, just lifting weights and pushing sleds and doing things like that. We definitely changed the narrative on that. I felt this game, and one game doesn't define us, though. We got to keep doing it. So.
Second row right, Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com.
CJ, Coach Day was talking again about that play when you rolled out and found Mayan on the sideline. Can you just take us through that play and like what goes into that as a quarterback when you're escaping pressure and trying to find a guy?
Yes, sir. It was a drop 8 coverage, so really 2 to 3 hole players. I just watched it on film, but when you have drop coverage and you have man coverage and you have hole players, it's tough to get cross routes going. So that was our concept. We had a crossing route, and so I read the widest defender. He ran out like it was man, so I go through my man principles. I first alerted mine. He had a wheel route, but mine isn't really a burner. So he was decently open at first, but I wanted to see what else could be open. So I kept going through my progressions, and then X kind of got bumped by his whole player, who was the Mike linebacker, number 27. And so as I did that, I tried to go back, but then I kind of felt a little pressure on my face, so I rolled out, went through. I knew it was third down, so I wanted to get the first down. I mean, I didn't want to turn the ball over right then and there because, I mean, if that's the case, then it's even worse. But even if we don't get it right there, it's fourth down, we punt, and then if they score, we got to get the ball back and go on a 2-minute drill and win the game. So, I mean, just being the competitive stuff I am and don't mind just being competitive, I just wanted him to come back down, which he did. We had that same rep during practice this week, and it didn't end up going like that. It was actually mine didn't run the route all the way. So this time he actually got it right. I seen him kind of through the corner of my eye, and I mean, I feel like it's something God blessed me with to be able to throw the ball on the run a little bit. So just try to put in the best spot that he can get it where the defense couldn't, and mine did a great job getting his toes in. So it was a great play. Definitely, I feel like that changed the game. Definitely put in the game more in our control. So it was amazing.
I mean, you guys are often so precise in the passing game within structure. How important is it for a quarterback to be able to do that and keep a play alive, and how have you worked on that? How do you work on that? How have you worked on it this offseason to be able to do that in that situation?
Yeah, we call it second part of the route here, basically scramble drill. That's probably like the universal term. So just working the scramble drill right then and there, just knowing the situation. I definitely think we've gotten better at situational football here, just knowing when to start down, knowing that we got to convert and when we don't. So I feel like that was really important right then and there in that game. I mean, and we made it happen, so I'm happy.
Far left, Justin Holbrook, WCMH.
When it's such a big game like that, physical, mental, emotional energy that you guys spend, come back on Sunday to the facility, how do you move on? How do you move off of the top 5 win and say, we have to go face Arkansas State now this week?
Right, yeah, I mean, definitely got to have short-term memory, but at the same time, you got to enjoy your victories. I mean, you got to smell your flowers. So I feel like we do a great job of that here. I mean, we have our champions meeting, and everything here, we're having fun. We had a good time doing that and seeing great plays seeing EA light some dudes up on special teams was kind of cool. So I had us juiced up. And then after that, we go out and have our Sunday practice because they always says we're on to the next week. And then we're on all our focus on Arkansas State. So amazing win, very tough team, top 5, first game of the season, which first game of the season are never really easy no matter who you play, I feel, unless they're like total bums. But so Notre Dame definitely weren't bums. They were a good team. So really proud of my guys. And now we move on, go to Arkansas State.
How long did that take you to learn to move on, but also appreciate the wins when you were first year, second year? When did you start to learn how to go through that and make a routine out of it?
Right, yeah. It was definitely tough for me last season. Just like we had a lot of big-time games last year. I feel like that first game was really big. And I never really, like, celebrated the wins after until probably, like, week 6, week 7. And one of my close friends and actually my agent called me. He was like, bro, you got to start enjoying your wins because, like, you work hard, right? And I'm like, yeah. And you really don't realize, like, the work that we put in is kind of unique. It's very not a lot of people I think can do it. Like the work Coach Day puts in, the work I put in, Coach Wilson, just to get the passing game, the running game, just little things. And you got to just enjoy that because it's tough, you know what I mean? And to be away from your family and things like that, so you got to smell your flowers.
Second row left, Stephen Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yes, CJ, I want to ask about Emeka. It seemed like the moment was calling for somebody to step up with Jackson not able to go, and just you were hoping that this would be a big season for him coming into a starting role. But that game and also everything leading up to it, what did you see out of him, I guess?
Yeah, Mecca, even Marvin, both extremely hard workers. Both are always in the building, working on their game, doing something right. Even off the field, I mean, trying to just make sure their bodies are right. I mean, you see them, they're all buffed up, they're chiseled up. So that just shows how great they are with what they do and how serious they take it, even being so young. So Emeka, yeah, he got to show a little bit of what he can do, even though he can do more. And I feel like even in our past game that he fits it perfectly, him and Marvin. And I feel like that first game kind of just put a little taste to people's mouths of what we can do a little bit. But I feel like we'll do even more and more just with the work we put in and things like that. So Mecca and Marvin, they're two great young players, work hard, great routes, great body discipline, and different things like that. So just super excited to see what they do.
Right behind him, Bill Landis, Rivals.
CJ, going back to the play of mine, it looked like that ball sort of had some backspin on it, like it kind of got back to him on the sideline. Is that just random how it came out of your hand? Or are you doing anything with your arm angle or the pressure you're putting on the ball to make it do that, to come back to him?
I don't know. I don't know if it did that. That's cool if it did. I'm not sure. I just threw it. I threw it as try to be as accurate as I could and just give him the shot to catch it where the defender couldn't. He did a good job of placing his body in the right place and giving me good numbers. I feel like when they give me their numbers, they want the ball. So he did a great job of doing that. Even Emeka had a play like that. The drive, I think, prior to that on the sideline again where he kind of cut the defender off and put his numbers to me, and I feel like he wanted the ball, so I gave it to him as best I could. So I didn't try to do anything special. I think that's something that maybe God blessed me with, so I'm happy.
With Marvin and Emeka, I think there's a point in the game with Marvin, the ball was a little short. Like you told him to sit maybe a little more shallow than he did. And then there was the one that was behind Emeka where maybe it looked like you were expecting him to settle instead of keeping his route going. It wasn't pervasive throughout the game, just kind of 2 moments that stood out. But how do you, I guess, work through that kind of stuff with receivers sort of in between drives to make sure you're all on the same page with that?
Right, yeah. I definitely think it's just conversation, just seeing what they see, seeing what I see. Definitely just got to get through those things. I mean, Chris and Gary and Jax went through that last season. Just filling each other out, trying to make sure that we like what we're doing both ways. I mean, we all got to be on the same page. So it's just different things like that. Definitely not anything alarming. Just got to be better, best on my part. I mean, Marvin didn't do anything crazy. I just got to make that throw. Probably just make it a little harder, throw the ball a little harder. Then I'm not sure the one in Mecca you're talking about, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it was just conversation that we had on the sideline.
Later in the game, he was like crossing over in the middle. There was like a little window, like kind of was just behind him.
Right. His whole player, Trey's man player ran with him, and if I would have threw a good ball, it would have been a pick six. So, which I thought it was a good ball because I put it on the spot only he can get it. If I throw it in a good place, either he bats it down, he gets killed, or he. And I don't want my guy getting killed. So, I think people who know football see that number 8 was standing out there, and he was looking back towards Emeka, so that's why I tried to slow him down with the ball. So, I mean, that's just a football play that I feel like I had to do. I mean, that's all right there. I don't think it was inaccurate. I thought it was a good ball.
I was wondering if you were expecting him to sit a little bit.
Yeah, it was a wrong protection. We should have had Trey on the opposite side, but it is what it is. We won the game, so.
Right behind him, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
Yeah, hey CJ, just your offensive line with some new guards there up front, Paris at left tackle. How did you evaluate just communicating with them, loud environment, and just their play overall as well?
Yeah, they did an amazing job. I mean, Donovan and being the youngest dude on the O-line, he definitely held his own. You can see him in the run game, moving dudes around. Even the first play of the game, I mean, he was going after dudes. So it's exciting to see somebody young like that with that much talent, that much upside. And in Paris, I mean, him going back to tackle for his natural position, did an amazing job on Foskey. Foskey was a really good player on film and definitely did some great things in the game. And I think Paris did a good job of handling him. Same thing with DeJuan. I mean, DeJuan has been just amazing this whole offseason, even in that game. Just his leadership, his vocalness, and of course Luke just setting the protections, make sure everything is right, everything is clean, battling through injury, just different things like that our guys kind of up front. And they set the tone. I mean, Matt Jones, I mean, he set the tone. He was sick the whole week and came back and fought with us. So I'm just super proud of him, and I definitely think they did amazing job and kept me clean, kept our O-line. I mean, kept our running backs clean, and I feel like they have a lot to work on, but so does this whole team, and I feel like we'll do that.
The second half, you talked with Perry and Ryan earlier about the second half defense. You know, to see the way they, clamped down, grinded it out. How much energy, juice did it give you and the offense to overcome that halftime deficit and ultimately pull out that win?
Yeah, man, it's amazing. I mean, it's definitely a great feeling as an offense, knowing that you have a great defense that you can rely on. Even on some of those fourth downs where I thought we were going to go for it because they decided to punt, which I had no problem with, is because he has so much trust in our defense. So it's amazing just to have because they trust in our defense again, and even myself not even worried about it. Just knowing that we'll get the ball back, and they did a great job. Tommy had a great game. Tanner, Lathan stepped up really big, and our corners did a good job on trying to stop their tight end, Michael Mayer, who's an NFL tight end, really good player. So I feel like they did a great job overall.
Third row left, Dan Hope, Levin Warriors.
CJ, Coach Day was saying how Jackson is somebody who impacts everyone on the offense. Just how does he do that?
I definitely think that he's just that type of person, even off the field. I mean, he's somebody that you kind of gravitate towards. He's very relaxed in every situation, never panics. So when he went down, it was kind of like a shock to everybody. Like, damn, like, where's Jackson? I didn't even know that he was hurt, that he would not return in the game. I thought he was going to return, but like that, it just affects your whole offense. Just like, I mean, he's the best player on our team, if you ask me. So, but it is what it is. I mean, Jackson, he'll come back and do great things. But yeah, it definitely does affect our offense, does affect our team, because I mean he's just loved on the team on a personal level. So you never want to see your brother go down, especially you see all the work he puts in the off season and just grinding so hard, and it kind of sucks for him not to bear the fruit of his labor. But it is what it is. God has a plan for him. So
if he can't play this week, what are the things you guys need to do better to make up for him not being out there?
I feel like we did everything that we're supposed to do with or without him. I definitely think everything happens for a reason. So. I feel like X will step up big, Emeka again, Marvin again, JB will have a good game again, and the younger dudes, we're calling them to step up. So it's an opportunity for everybody to have a good game and try to go out there and dominate, try to compete. So I'm not sure what we have to do better than what we did in the Notre Dame games, top 5 teams. So it's kind of tough to just pick them apart all the way. So I feel like as the season goes on, we'll get better at that. So just excited for that.
Right in front of him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
CJ, you're a pretty smart football player. I think you've kind of given off that impression at this point. But Day was even talking about when he's throwing stuff at you, there's even times when you have to tell him to slow down a little bit so you can catch up on stuff. Are there examples of moments when Day's throwing a million things at you and you're just kind of like looking at him crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we have two different perspectives when it comes to certain things. Like, Coach Day's seen things from him. He played quarterback as well, but he hasn't played in a while. So, but he's seen things from a sideline perspective. And I'm not saying this happened in the game because, I mean, we were really clean with our conversations and we were happy kind of with everything kind of worked out, even though it wasn't perfect. But we knew that coming in. But, like, during the week, we didn't know what they were going to do. And we prepared for a lot of their different coverages and fronts and different things like that from prior places that DC was at, Marcus Freeman where he was at. So like Cincinnati stuff, the Bengals stuff, just different things like that. So sometimes he would confuse me. I'd be like, Coach, I'm just going to go read the coverage and hope everything works out. But, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, so he keeps me honest with that type of stuff and make sure I'm fully prepared. So the conversation is always good. Sometimes he does say a lot, but I think I can do a good job of just knowing what he means and knowing what I have to accept and taking into consideration for the game. So.
Spring, you were talking about putting more on your plate, especially pre-snap at the line of scrimmage. What did that mean against Notre Dame? Like, what were some of the things you were maybe able to do this year that you weren't able to do against Minnesota, even against Utah?
Right. Well, this game plan was kind of unique for us. We usually have a lot of checks and a lot of run checks that I have to go through, even pass game checks. And this game, they really just put the protections on me and Luke. So I feel like we did really clean with that. The run games, we didn't know what fronts they were going to bring, so we had universal plays that kind of went with everything. So I really didn't have to do too much this game, but I'm pretty sure as a year goes on, I'll probably have more. So I'm not really too worried about it. We've been working on it for the offseason, and I definitely think that we'll be clean when it happens.
What's the dynamic with you and Luke at the line of scrimmage pre-snap? Like, how does that kind of work?
Right. I mean, he's like the vice president. I'm like the president. It's kind of like how it works a little bit. Like he'll make a claim, and I'll either veto it or make something else. So it's the truth. Like he'll set a protection because I mean I'm seeing everything from a bird's eye. He's down in the stance, so if I see a rotation or see somebody's triggering, then I can flip it or I can base somebody, which means just he's the ID now. And our running backs did a great job of pass protection. Kind of made us whole, seeing where everything is coming from because I mean they're in a scan protocol going from left to right. So definitely if us three are on the same page, I mean it all works out.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
CJ, when you were talking earlier about the throw to Mayan and escaping pressure, do you feel better handling pressure and being able to move this time than kind of escaping like a pass rush you did a year ago?
I feel like last season I really didn't have those opportunities all the time. Even now, I'm probably am a little more comfortable just moving around. I feel like I'm faster a little bit. My body feels bigger, so I mean I'm not worried about. And I wasn't worried about that last season, but I feel like I am more comfortable with my body and how it works now, being around like 218, 220. So, and I feel like I'm quicker getting out of the pocket on some of those things. So we worked on those things in the off season, and it just made me a little more confident. And then our players, and they're really smart in those type of scramble drills. So I just try to keep my eyes up and make sure that everybody's happy. Because if I just take off and run, I don't think, and the receivers are wide open, then I mean I'm doing them a discourtesy. So I try to give everybody the rock.
How much of that is just being faster and quicker, or having like a sense of where the rush is, and I guess how does that kind of like factor in play versus you being faster versus just sort of your pocket presence?
I definitely think it starts with the pocket presence, just like knowing what type of rush, if it's 3-man, 4-man rush, or if it's a blitz where it's 5, 6-man, even 7-man rush. So even in that zero play with X, they brought zero, and I knew that I wasn't hot yet because they came from depth, the two safeties, and I knew I was warm. So I just had to get it on my hands. So it's just doing different things like that, like how many are coming, and just feeling the pocket presence. So, and then a little bit have to do with my body and how I feel with that.
Right next door, Tim Mays, Letterman Row.
Yeah, get back to that warm, hot thing. When you're up there and you see those two safeties, I think it might have been the first time the whole game they brought both of them. Maybe I'm wrong, but and you've got this Xavier Johnson sitting there. Is he seeing the same thing I am? Or what are you thinking there? I mean, just go through that whole thought process.
Yeah, I mean,
here's a guy that hadn't played much, you know.
Right. I mean, Coach Day and Coach Fitch, somebody who I hold near and dear to my heart when I go through my game plan and things like that. He helps me out tremendously. So he always tells me to have a game plan for zero, and they didn't bring zero yet. So I mean, but I was ready for it because it was starting long. They like to bring it with Notre Dame. That was kind of their tendencies of bringing it 3rd and 8+. So as I'm going up to snap the ball, I just was wondering like, okay, what's my zero plan? And now that's what the play. So that play we called it earlier in the week. And I was talking to the guys like Jax, X, Emeka, because they play H. And I was like, if we get this play in a zero, do this and that. So that's what he did. So it's kind of cool for it to kind of pay off because sometimes, I mean, we just talk and it doesn't happen. So for it to happen was kind of cool. So I just see them coming from death, took my drop and just try to get on my hand. And X did a good job of setting a good route on his man and winning his route. So it all worked out.
And like you said, I mean, this is Xavier that saw it too. I mean, you know what I mean? He's hardly played. I mean, it's just, is that kudos to him for keeping his head in the game all these years, especially, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's an OG, man. He's a vet. So he definitely knows the game. He sees it well. He never really has any MAs where he's missing assignments or kind of doesn't know where he's going. He always kind of knows what's up. So I didn't even give him a look or nothing, knowing that I didn't know he knew it was zero until like he made the move that he did, and I was like, okay, now he knows it's zero. So it kind of made the play happen. So it was cool for him to do that.
Thank you, man. We've got time for just a couple more folks. Front, the second row, right? Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Coach Day was just talking about that it's nice to have a more experienced quarterback now because of the feedback you can give him during games. Some examples of that during the Notre Dame game where you felt like you made the offense better just by things you were able to go back and tell him?
Yeah, I definitely was just letting them know just the fronts they were in. They were predominantly 4-down front until it was like 3rd down. A lot of man coverage. Then they would mix it up with a little 32 fire, which is basically internal pressure with the two linebackers and a drop zone coverage. A fire coverage on the backside, on the back end. So just letting them know different things like that. We thought we were going to get a little more cover 2, a little more 6, which they did run. And a couple of those times we made the play happen. So, just coming back to the sideline, giving him more feedback, and because, he's not able to see everything. And it's better, I feel like, for a player's perspective to give him what I'm seeing on the field. So it ended up working out, and I feel like that's definitely helped me in my game, just making sure that we're on the same page with Coach Day and the play calling. So it was well.
Do you define success at this stage more by diagnosing like the zero blitz that you were just talking about than aggregate yardage or touchdowns or things like that?
I kind of put our success on winning. I just want to win. I don't care how much I throw for touchdowns. It really doesn't matter. We did all that stuff, so I feel like we'll continue to do that. Hopefully we are the number one offense we want to be, but it's not our main goal anymore. We just want to win games. So, at the end of the day, it's all that matters.
Is that how you decided that you're a good quarterback that night, though, I guess is maybe more the question?
I feel like I did some good things. 70-something% throwing the ball. Had some missed throws. It's the first game of the year. Kind of still have your first game nerves and things like that. So, but when my number was called to make certain plays, I made them. So I feel like that's what I based my game on as well, on top of winning. So I feel like I did some good things. Definitely, you can always work on your game. So I'm never going to be perfect, and I never want that to be the case of me just thinking I'm perfect. So definitely our offense, we're humble, and we're just trying to continue to be the best we can be to win games.
And final questions, third row, right, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
CJ, you talked about this earlier. Next man up with Jackson, but when he's a friend, he's a good friend. What's your emotions when a guy like that goes down, not just for the team, but for you?
It's just shocking, just to know, like I said before, this the work he put in, and just for him. It's not nothing crazy. Like, he's not out for the season, thank God. So I'm not too worried about it. But it's just there. I wish he played. I feel like he would have had a great game. They were doing some coverages that we literally wanted for Jackson. So it kind of skewed our game plan a little bit, like taking shots and different things like that. So we definitely had to be smart with the ball on my part. So it definitely was tough. But at the end of the day, we won. Jackson, after the game, I talked to him. He was extremely happy for us, happy for him with the team. And, of course, he wanted to do more and want to be more a part of the game. And he will. Everything will be fine. He'll be good to go the next coming week. So.
How do you deal with that? You've been in that situation. He's hurt. When you're hurt, you want to play. Players want to play. But the doctor says maybe no. What's that discussion like with the head coach? You had it last year. Is it just really tough to?
Yeah, it's tough. Because just being competitors and being, I feel like we both have dog mentalities where we want to dominate every time we step on the field or court, whatever it may be. So I definitely think it's tough, but you got to be smart. It's the longevity of the season. It's the first game of the year. I know. It's Notre Dame. You definitely want to play. You've been dreaming about these type of moments your whole life. So it was tough for him, and last year it was tough for me. But you got to be smart. Definitely, you want to be a young pro. So when your number's called, of course, make the play. But when it's time to sit it down, you kind of got to sit it down and just get your body right, because your body, your best ability is your availability. So.
When you say smart both from the team sense of winning the game and you don't want to hurt the team, but
right.
also from your own sense of you don't want to damage yourself.
Correct. Yeah, you don't want to damage yourself more than you have, so you miss more weeks or more, or you don't want to damage the win. I mean, if Jackson, we needed him that bad, Jackson would have played, but I know that he would have. But I mean, a hamstring, something you don't play with. I mean, I had a hamstring my freshman year. You can't really run for real. So, and that's 50% of his game. So, he'll be okay though. Everything will be all right.
You need him Saturday?
I mean, we need everybody. We don't take anybody lightly. I mean, we come to a game where I'm not too. I don't know. Arkansas State's a good team. Shoot, they won last game. They want to know like us. So we'll come in that game and swing as hard as we can.
Jerry, can I ask him one quickie? What did that last touchdown mean for this team, this offense, to go jumbo and push the ball into the end zone based on all the stuff you heard throughout the offseason? You know, you guys playing soft, not being physical, et cetera. What did that just do for you guys?
I mean, it just made it. I mean, it didn't really prove nothing for us. We already knew it was a. I mean, we had that last season. I mean, we're not really worried about what everybody else got to say. We just trying to prove ourselves right. We ain't trying to prove nobody wrong. So, I mean, it was just something that we put the work in. We basically our work that we put in, we bared it. So we bared our fruit. I mean, and that's all that matters. We knew what was up. So, I mean, it wasn't nothing surprising to us. We just had fun out there. So.
And last thing on the mind thing, that play when it happened, how did you feel? You talked about enjoying wins last year. How'd you feel when it happened? How'd you feel when you watched it on film? That throw to mind.
I'm super happy for mine, for real. That's my best friend on the team, and I've been enjoying. I mean, me and him have been talking about moments like this forever. So it was cool just to make the play. I didn't really think about it too much, just having fun out there with my boys, and I don't know, it was fun. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
Watching on film, I thought that's pretty good, CJ.
nah, I don't really do that.
Bill, did you want to get a question in? One last question, Bill Rabinowitz.
Bill, you gotta calm, bro. You gotta be chill, bro. You gotta get your question, bro.
We know Notre Dame was a test. They're not bums, right? Not total bums.
Correct.
How big a test will this be for you guys? Because this is not Notre Dame.
Ain't no test. I mean, that was not a problem last year, but I feel like it was a problem, to keep it real. So we maybe play down our competition sometimes, and me personally, that's not something I never want to do. You always want to go out there and prove that you can dominate anybody you step on the field with. So I feel like every week we kind of have the same approach, watch the same amount of film, go through the same routines at practice. We're not going to be light on anything. We're going to make sure everything is done the right way, just so it can be done right week 2, so it can be done right in week 10, week 11, week 12. So definitely nothing will be passed slightly here, no matter who we play. So.
Quickie, Luke walked out with a boot. If he can't play, how much faith do you have in Matt at center or Jacob or whoever it would be?
Yeah, I mean, we worked these type of scenarios in practice where Luke would step out and Matt will come in or Jacob will come in, and I mean, I've trusted those guys too. I mean, definitely had to make some adjustments to that because Luke is so pivotal in his way to see defenses and see fronts and different things like that. So it definitely will be an adjustment, but nothing crazy. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, God bless.